Hi and welcome everyone. My name is Sophia Mohamud. I'm a senior advisor here in the State Department's Bureau of African Affairs. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the start of day 5 of our YALI 10 Anniversary Virtual Summit. We hope you all have been having a wonderful experience so far, and it is my pleasure to moderate this session, session 15, that is dedicated to our vision for the next 10 years of YALI. We have a wonderful panel assembled for you today. We hope the conversation will be dynamic, and we hope to capture your input on what the vision of YALI looks like as we move forward to hopefully amplify the partnership, build on it, strengthening it. And we want to ensure we're capturing your voice and hearing from you directly. It's my pleasure to introduce to you all our panel that we have assembled today. First, I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Belinda Jackson-Ferrier. She serves in the State Department's Bureau of African Affairs as our Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs. Next, we have our YALI alumna coming today from Kenya, Ms. Karen Wacholi. She is the founder and executive director of Emerging Leaders Foundation Africa. And from West Africa, we have our YALI alumna, Ms. Gertrude Jose, founder of Lending a Helping Hand initiative. Again, we want to make sure that we are hearing from you, so we encourage you all to use the chat function as our panelists are giving you their thoughts on YALI and how we're moving forward. We want to hear from you. We will have an opportunity for Q&A after we hear from each panelist. So again, we hope this will be a dynamic discussion. So first, I'd like to turn the floor over to our Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary, Belinda Jackson-Ferrier. Belinda, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And first, I'd like to say good morning and good afternoon to everyone who's participating, and welcome to day 5. I think it's going to be very exciting, and we have an opportunity here to have a really engaging conversation. Organized this entire week of amazing speakers and activities. I know that we've heard from a range of people throughout the week who hopefully have given us the ideas and the building blocks that we need to kind of think about what the vision is and where YALI goes from here. And so I'm really excited to hear from all of you today about that. I think we should take a moment to congratulate ourselves on the achievement of having made it this far. 10 years of YALI is really exceptional. I think we've made an incredible difference and had an incredible impact. And so I hope that you take a moment to acknowledge that. You know, I have worked with YALI participants 10 years ago in Togo and most recently in Rwanda. And every time I have an opportunity to engage with YALI, I'm blown away at what our alumni are doing and what they're achieving and the difference that they're making across sectors and throughout the policy sphere. So I thank you for that, and I'm really encouraged by that. You know, at my alma mater, which is Spelman College, a historically Black college here in the United States, we like to say that you have a choice to change the world. And when I think about YALI, I think about that choice and the choice that you've made to have an impact. So I want to thank you in advance for the things that we're about to share and the conversation that we're about to have. I want to remind you that you have ownership of this program and that we need your voice and your input in order to continue to make it the special and unique program that it is, something that the United States government has attempted to replicate in other parts of the world. That's how amazing YALI is. You know, what makes YALI particularly special is all of you. And so, you know, please do engage with us today, send us your comments, send us your questions. We really do want to take that input to build and think about what's going to happen going forward. So thank you very much. I'm very excited to join you today, and I look forward to a very engaging conversation.
Thank you so much for that, Dash Jackson. Next, I'd like to turn it to our distinguished YALI alumna coming from Nairobi, Kenya, Ms. Karen Wacholi. Karen, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I am so excited to be here, and just the mention of the word, the term YALI, Young African Leaders Initiative, takes me back many years ago when I was in the inaugural cohort for YALI East Africa. And let me tell you something, I learned YALI, shaped my journey, shaped my life in such a big way. And just in terms of looking forward at the Africa I want to see, the YALI I want to see in the next 10 years, I want to see many things. I have already that YALI alumni are accomplishing in Kenya, in East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, Central Africa, North Africa, like the whole continent. This is like a great, great movement. And I'm looking forward to that time when the network will be so strong that we get to influence the leadership of our nations. We get to set the agenda for our nations. Let me just give an example. Next year, Kenya will be going into general elections, and a few other countries within the continent. We all know what happens around election time with young people, the politics, the instability, the vulnerabilities that come with that. I dream of a time when the influence of YALI will be so strong to the extent that we will influence for there to be peace around election time and throughout the period, because peace has an impact in so many things in terms of job creation, investor relations, leadership engagement, rule of law, democracy, participation, inclusion, and all those things. So that is one thing that I so look forward to. The other bit is about the dignity of Africans, and especially the dignity of the young Africans, the young men and women that we get to see and meet and work with. They have dreams and aspirations, but is the environment enabling enough for them to thrive and be happy and pursue their dreams and innovate and make a change on the continent? In some areas, yes. In some areas, no. So I look forward to a time when part of the work each and every one of us is doing, and as a network, we will be able to work together to create a society that is dignified, a society where people live in dignity, that mothers can have a meal, children can go to school and access good quality education, that we will be proud to be Africans. Because let me tell you something, I think it's so beautiful to be African. And what just makes us African is not the fact that we're born in Africa, but it's our uniqueness, our culture, our value system, our togetherness. And in that, we can actually be able to thrive. And the whole question about good governance and accountable leadership, I look forward to having an Africa that is that has leadership that is accountable, a leadership that cares for the people. And I guess that is part of the reason why YALI is all about developing and growing leaders and developing the next generation of values-based leaders. Like, that is so critical. And one final thing that I look forward to is a society where we have secure livelihoods, and especially for young people. Looking at the continent right now, Africa is the youngest continent. Over 73% of the population is of individuals who are below 35 years of age. Yet at the same time, the cases of unemployment are quite high. And that limits the ability of young people to engage in the economic life, in the political life, and to participate in decision-making processes and in policy processes. So secure livelihoods are really, really, really important. And so how do we as individuals then hold our leaders and our governments to account to then make sure that all of us can participate in the political space, in the economic space, in every sector of society without fear, intimidation, favor, or any such thing? So I look forward to such a great Africa. I have so many dreams, Sophia. I can go on and on and on about the dreams I have for Africa, and they are beautiful. They are amazing. And just looking at the rich network of the YALI family, it's just amazing. And personally, I have been able to have collaborations across countries, not just within my country, Kenya, across countries with YALI alumni, those in my cohort, those outside of my cohort. We engage, we share opportunities, we collaborate, and it's such a beautiful story. So I'm just seeing beautiful things for the next 10 years for Africa. Thank you.
Karen, thank you so much for just the dynamism, really of your vision, and the hope for young Africans. And this session is dedicated to encouraging and inspiration and really thinking about what's next and moving forward. So we encourage you to share those stories as we begin the discussion in the chat. Well, as we bring in our other alumni and others who've joined us today this morning, we want to hand the floor over next to our next dynamic speaker today, coming to you all from West Africa, Ms. Gertrude Jose. Again, she is the founder of Lending a Helping Hand initiative in Liberia. Ms. Jose, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm today, and thanks to the U.S. Department of State and the Western Center for this opportunity. I'm honored. I'm looking forward. For me, YALI changed my life for good, and I want that for the rest of other Africans that will come to be a part of the program. Like somebody else will say, the Africa that we look forward to, a lot more is expected of young people. But how can we sit at this table if we are not prepared? We got to be prepared, and YALI has afforded us that opportunities to be prepared, to take on leadership roles, to take on role in different spheres of life. And I'm so excited today to be on this panel that will discuss YALI for the next vision, the next 10 years vision for YALI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gertrude. And we are so just proud and wonderfully happy that YALI has meant a lot to you, and it has been a program that has given you tools for you to use as you continue your wonderful work in Liberia. So we want, again, to use this session really as a back and forth and really try to stir conversation on how we move forward, particularly as we want to grow the partnership of YALI, to strengthen it, to ensure that there is, really the foundation that we're building upon that just continues throughout the generations. And so before we open it up to the Q&A, I would actually like to maybe, Belinda, sort of ask you just a question of the administration and our approach as we move forward in Africa. I think it was powerful that it was only 15 days after the inauguration that President Biden addressed the African Union to encourage, a strong partnership between the United States and Africa. And I just wondered if you could speak maybe to the group just in terms of how we are moving forward in our engagement, sort of in the prioritization of our relationships across the continent. And maybe if you could give a few words on that, just in terms of our prioritization of engagement.
Thank you. So I think what I would highlight is that, as Sophia, you mentioned, early in the administration, President Biden immediately made an address that really spoke to his administration's focus on engaging in a robust kind of partnership with countries throughout the African continent. I think that throughout our foreign policy community in the United States, as well as in the administration, we understand that, as Karen alluded to, youth in Africa are a powerful force that can have such a positive impact on issues around economic development, around the delivery of healthcare, around political change and democratic reform. And so we want to make sure that we, at this time, come to the table as true friends and partners and engage in a dialogue about what's really important and where can we make a difference, and plot a plan together ahead. I think many of you have already seen the huge investments and efforts the United States has made in the African continent, particularly in the areas of health through especially on HIV and AIDS, or combating Ebola, or even now through COVAX and the delivery of vaccines related to COVID-19 and support on that issue. That remains very important, as does trade and economic development. And these are areas where we're going to continue to see growth and dialogue and conversation. So I think that just really kind of touches on the iceberg, but it's something that we can continue talking about today. But really, I think what we want you to walk away with and really understand is that we are in a moment where there's a real opportunity to have powerful engagement that really sets the tone for the future and makes a significant difference. So thank you for that opportunity, Sophia.
Thank you for that. So we've got a few questions coming in, which is wonderful. We want to encourage everyone to use the chat function. This is your opportunity to hear directly from one of our leaders in the Africa Bureau who oversees our YALI program, and as we continue to develop the program and moving forward, and also from our other alumni. So please continue to use that chat function. We have a few questions actually coming in, and this time I'd like to maybe pose this to Gertrude, either you or Karen. Gertrude, in your intervention, you talked about the importance of YALI and help and trying to use it as a tool to help our participants sort of develop those leadership roles. And Karen, you also mentioned that, you know, your sort of vision for the youth of Africa is to sort of ensure that there are livelihood opportunities. So we have a question here from one of our participants in terms of economic opportunities. And the question is, how does YALI support young entrepreneurs who may be struggling to start their businesses? So perhaps Karen, Gertrude, if you have any thoughts on that, I'll turn the floor over to either of you.
So let me start with first my own personal experience. For me, YALI opened states for me because I actually started my work, but I had just little experience. So being a part of the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, and then where I was in Nebraska, the program in Nebraska, they introduced me to a lot of organizations that were working closely in that they have related to my goals and my vision. So once I get to them, my own part of the story, they welcome the idea. That's how I was able to get support from most of them. Even up to present, I'm still getting support for some of them, be it financially, be it through material, be it through technical support. We are still in mission. So YALI is just a perfect space that will just open up the world for you. But you have to be ready and you have to be prepared. Have a set goal that you want to work towards. Don't just jump here and there. Be specific about what you want to do. Yes. Thank you.
Sophia, I would also like to add to what Gertrude has said. One of the things that really inspired me to join YALI was the fact that I had started Emerging Leaders Foundation. I had no background whatsoever in terms of running an institution, in terms of fundraising, and we were struggling to raise resources. And I'm sure you know this, that without resources, you cannot sometimes do a lot of things that you want to do. So resources are important. And that question from one of the fellows is really, really critical. And let me tell you something. The turning point for me and how YALI supported me, number one, was to help me own my personal story and then link that personal story to the work I do. That then when I go out to pitch, I don't just say that we are working to develop leaders at the grassroots level, to do this for Kenya, for Africa. No, I start with my why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is my story around issues of leadership and governance and why that is critical? I learned that from YALI. Number two is about resource mobilization. I was in the civic leadership track. I learned a lot of things, but one of the things that stood out for me was resource mobilization. Initially, my team and I just used to respond to calls for proposals and then write proposals, go out to corporate organizations, bilateral institutions, multilaterals, and submit concepts and proposals, and nothing came through for like 7 years. Nothing. It was crazy. At some point, it was so difficult that I wanted to give up. Then in YALI, and I learned about resource mobilization. And one of the things that has made a difference is that I discovered that resource mobilization is not just about resources like money. No, it goes beyond money. It is about raising friends, not fundraising, but friends raising, building relationships. And once you do that, the path sort of becomes clearer. So part of how YALI then supports the fellows and the alumni to be able to grow their businesses is, of course, the skilling in terms of how do you run your institution, what is critical, how do you put in place systems and structures and mechanisms to then make sure you are investor ready and attractive enough for even donors to come and invest in your institution. How do you work together with the team? How do you innovate? Like the module on human-centered design or design thinking, that was critical. Like we did it practically. And I learned that creating solutions is good, but creating solutions that are centered around the user is even much more sustainable. And that helps you create revenue and helps you to run your institution and your business well. So I would tell that individual, yeah, get those skills and get to learn and have mentors and go back to the regional center where you are from and ask questions and get into a network of other entrepreneurs, a network, learn from each other, have a support system. Like that is so critical. Sophia, over to you.
Karen and Gertrude, really for your words of wisdom. And I think a common thread that I heard from both of you is, sort of the importance of having sort of clarity of vision as you moving forward and harnessing the power of the network. Karen, I'm going to start using your term, your friend raising. I think that's pretty powerful in terms of really the emphasis on community and network and ensuring that you have the support system in place. We've got a lot of questions coming in. This is wonderful, you all. Please keep it up. We are eager to hear from you. We want to ensure that we are addressing as many of the issues as possible. Belinda, a few questions are coming in about the structure and sort of YALI and sort of moving forward. One question in particular is asking, so you have to scroll up, there's so many questions here. One of our participants noted that you mentioned that YALI inspired other programs all around the world. And is it possible that the Department of State looks into linking people within these programs to grow a bigger network for global coordination? And that actually also ties into another question we received, sort of related, about if you could speak to programs that can link young leaders to global opportunities, networks through exchange programs within Africa and also globally. So if you could maybe take a few minutes to address those, we'd appreciate it.
No, thank you. So I think our participants have really hit on an idea that our team is beginning to really brainstorm about, right? How do we expand this idea of building networks and, as Karen said, friend raising, not just within a cohort, but around the world, right? I think it would be very engaging for many of you to meet and talk to your counterparts, say, in the YALI program in Latin America, right? And be exposed to some of the ideas that are happening there and have that exchange and back and forth. I think one thing I would be interested in hearing from you all today, and you can feel free to drop this in the chat or talk about it in your breakout sessions, is what does that ideal engagement look like, right? Is it virtual? Is it, are you paired with someone? Are you traveling somewhere? Are there small regional conferences? What is the most beneficial way to engage? And what is the most beneficial breakdown of that by sector, right? By, by issue. So I think that the ideas are there. I think that in this year, where we have seen all of us move and shift to a world in which we have expanded the horizon of what's possible virtually, the opportunities are even greater. And so how do we harness that and move forward is something that we are actively talking about. And to get your input today on the ways in which that would most benefit you would really make a difference for us. So thank you.
Belinda, for that. And for sure, as Belinda mentioned, we want to ensure that we're capturing the voices of our participants. Actually, Belinda, as a follow-on to that, so recognizing that YALI is a partnership between the United States and our participants in the program, we have someone who's asked, what has the United States learned from YALI over the past 10 years that can be applied to the next 10? I think that's kind of a perfect follow-on to your intervention just now, asking about sort of like their vision. So here's an opportunity in terms of the United States vision. What do you see as sort of best practices and lessons learned that could be applied in the next 10 years?
Great. Yeah, no, thank you. That's a really interesting question. As I sit here and I'm reflecting on 10 years ago, when I was in Togo and received a message about some new program called YALI that we were building. And I think about where we are now, and I wonder, and I was thinking to myself, how did we get here, right? And so the lesson learned, or the how we got here and how we continue to grow, is by doing what we're doing now, and that's listening, right? As we received feedback from participants, as we learned through our mistakes and through our successes, we made changes, we made adjustments, and we've grown. And so the lesson, I think, for all of us is that this type of engagement, listening and sharing and speaking and offering constructive feedback and suggestions, is a powerful lesson to be learned from the program, and one that I think we can apply to, many elements of our professional lives, and I think is what will ultimately make us most successful in the future.
Thank you, Belinda, for that. We've got so many questions coming in. This is wonderful, everyone. And we've got about another 20 minutes or so. So we want to keep the conversation moving. Maybe I'll pose this question to Gertrude and Karen, really to both of you, for your thoughts on this particular issue, because I think what's so powerful about your participation in this panel is that you both represent women leaders. Both of you have founded your respective organizations and can draw from the richness of your experience of what that entailed and how you've led in your communities. One of our participants is asking that, or they noted, and they have a question. They said that YALI teaches us that leadership is about more than just titles. And they've asked if you could share what you think is the most important part of being a real and effective leader. And I couldn't think of two better alumna to help respond to that question, given your respective experiences. So I turn the floor over to you both. Feel free, either one of you, to take the question first. Thank you.
Should I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll go first. I love that question. I love that question. But Sophia, please allow me to just add on to what Belinda said in the question about ideal engagement with YALI fellows and alumni. I would also add that it is critical for the U.S. Department of State to also directly engage with youth initiatives and organizations, and not necessarily work through intermediaries or other organizations to then now engage with young people. So what is the gap and what is the challenge? Is it capacity? Is it investor readiness? Is it impact and documentation of impact? Is it monitoring? Is it scale? What is the challenge? And so what would make the international community, or even the U.S. Department of State, to be confident enough to then actually engage directly with youth-serving organizations from the national level to the grassroots level, so that then, because then it sends, I think, a message that maybe youth organizations or youth initiatives are risky. Like many donors would say that youth institutions are risky. Maybe they're there today, tomorrow they're not there. They don't have structures and systems in place. But what if we actually made part of our purpose and our programming to be that we want to intentionally build capacities of these youth organizations for sustainability, even for the network and the movement and all that. So that is what I wanted to add. And in terms of the question you have asked about what is important to an individual leader, I'm looking at my life. Sophia, that's a powerful question. I feel strongly that what is really, really important, many things are important, but what is of most importance to me, and I have also read books and interacted with leaders, mentors, and friends, and I see that what has stood out is purpose. Many years ago, especially in 2015, when things were not working out with my organization, I felt fatigued, I felt lost, I felt confused, and thought, you know what, maybe this is not my thing. Let me quit. Let me call it a day. But there are times when I would remember my why. Why did I start Emerging Leaders Foundation in the first place? And I would remember where I came from, where food was a problem, going to school was a problem, and such things was a problem. And I was able to connect and have a linkage between the quality of leaders that we have and the quality of lives that people get to live. And I said from a young age, I want to be a better leader. but I want to create a platform to nurture leaders, because then, like John Maxwell puts it, everything rises and falls on leadership. So that is so important. So when I remember those moments when I was growing up and I see the inequalities in society, and I see that the answer to that inequality is good leadership, good governance, strong institutions, rule of law, clear democratic processes, elections that are free and fair, a peaceful society, I'm then reminded that, you know what, I have to play this part. So purpose is really important. And part of the reason I stuck it out, even when it didn't make sense to stick it out, it was because of purpose. Because then I asked myself, this is the reason I am alive. This is my reason for being. If I don't play this part, and like Michelle Obama said sometime last year in her speech, that sometimes our ability to accomplish our dreams and our aspirations and our purpose in life is supposed to open doors for other people, that other people's purposes and livelihoods and well-being are dependent upon our ability to actually live out our dreams and our lives. So purpose is really important. Purpose is really important. Please find it. What is your why? In Japanese, there's this term called ikigai. What is your ikigai? What is that thing that unsettles your spirit and makes you wake up when you don't feel like waking up? What is that thing that makes you show up even when you're tired, when you're exhausted, when you're having sleepless nights because maybe one or two things are not working out? What is that thing? When you find that thing, oh, you can weather any storm. You can go through anything, and you will have reason to live. So please find your why, find your purpose, find your reason for being. It is everything. And like Dr. King once said, if you haven't found something you can die for, then maybe you're not worth living. So please find that thing, that why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for your words of wisdom, really, and just the encouragement and the inspiration. Because I feel that there are so many alumni and YALI participants who, are still striving, and this is a journey. And so to hear, to have the opportunity to hear from you directly from your experience, and also, tying it to purpose, I think it is also powerful. Gertrude, wanted to also give the floor to you for your words of wisdom, drawing from your own experience in terms of, encouraging our alumni on, continuing to move forward and as they are in their communities, how they can best, utilize the network as well, and hearing from your own experience. Over to you, Gertrude.
Thank you. Okay, one thing I think I heard a lot from Karen is purpose, which I think is the driving force to whatsoever you find yourself doing. For me, YALI helped me to find my own purpose and give my life a meaning. Because let me just be personal, I came across the YALI program when I was at the part in my life. I was broken. And then I just needed something to take my mind off what I was going through. And then I came across the YALI program, applied, and then I was successful. Long story short, it helped me for my purpose. That today I can speak out to other people, young women, young girls, to help them to find their own purpose. One thing I'm afraid to speak out to tell people that I was a single mother. I came from an abused relationship. That was one thing I was afraid to speak out. But after my purpose, I use that story as a tool to go out to other women to tell them that this is not the end. There is so much more that you can achieve if you put what has happened at your back and then you prepare to move forward. And that has given me every time I think about that, I got goosebumps, because I feel so accomplished when this lady walked up to me and said, "Oh, Gertrude, I was at this point in my life where you explain your story because of your empowerment program. I've gained skills that today I'm able to help other young women." And then my program, we also go out to schools, help young women, young girls find their own purpose. It's not about me anymore. It's about me impacting my society in a bigger way, giving other youth the reason to say no. I'm ready to go forward, put aside their own challenges, and then move forward, impact their society in whatever way that they can do in their own little way. So finding your purpose is one thing, and giving other life or meaning, that is one thing that has helped me. I feel accomplished. I feel proud every time my program graduates a woman from our empowerment program, and then they come back and say, I'm grateful for the program for helping me. So I think that should be the goal of every young African YALIs out there, helping people find their own purpose. We found ours, so let's help others make the difference by finding their own purpose. Thank you.
Gertrude, thank you so much. Thank you truly for your courage to tell your story. Thank you for sharing that with the group, and congratulations on all the wonderful work you're doing in Liberia through your foundation. And we continue. We hope and wish the best as you continue and making it successful and impacting the lives of women in Liberia. So congratulations on that. My pleasure. I think from hearing from all three of you, today. I think there's this sort of common thread about community. I think there is no doubt that YALI is a really dynamic network. It reflects the dynamism of young Africans, the hope of young Africans, for a better future. And I think, Karen, you mentioned in your opening remarks really sort of encapsulating the dignity of Africa, the dignity of Africans. And so there are a few questions here, Belinda, I want to pose to you in particular. They're two separate questions, but a bit related. And one is about, how can YALI actively impact policy implementation over the next 10 years, right? So recognizing YALI is an exchange program, we've got a good 10-year foundation, underneath us. We're moving forward, to build on that. And so sort of linking that to our policy implementation. And particularly, I think, sort of to tie it to this other question about sort of the good governance, that remains sort of a core policy component of the United States government in terms of like supporting good democratic governance. There's another question, Belinda, that's tied to this is that, there's recognition that YALI is such a great program that inspires young leaders and want to create positive change in their communities. And the question they're asking is, in the process, these leaders, referencing YALI leaders, are sometimes seen as a threat by politicians for their positions. And so any advice for how young leaders can be brave and advocate for themselves in those spaces in power? And we'd also want to hear from Gertrude and Karen on that. But Belinda, your thoughts on the policy implementation, how to sort of connect the sort of the network as it relates to good governance, to democratic strengthening of institutions. Over to you, Belinda.
Thank you. Those are really great questions. And I think I'll try to answer the first piece and leave space for Karen and Gertrude as well for their input. So, I would offer that through our networks, and you guys have access to our public affairs sections at embassies that are often reaching out to you for your participation or views on a number of different issues, or providing space for alumni to come to the table with proposals or ideas for different types of initiatives. And I think that maintaining that communication with the public affairs sections, a particular embassy or consulate near you, is really one of the best ways to stay in the U.S. government side of that policy process and that communication process, because you are, having that constant contact. You are perhaps having opportunities to engage with people in meetings or other types of settings, and that's really where you have a role to play there. So I would direct people to really continue to be a full participant in our alumni programming and to remain engaged with our public affairs sections. And that's the best way to have that voice and that input on the ground.
Thank you, Belinda, for that. Sort of following in the same conversation, Gertrude, the question that one of our participants raised about the fact that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes YALI participants are viewed as a threat to politicians for their jobs. And is there any advice that if you can give on how young leaders can be brave and advocate for themselves in spaces of power? And this is coming directly from one of our participants today. Over to you, Gertrude, for any thoughts?
Okay, so if you look around us, to be specific, so many challenges people are faced with, and then trying to address some of these challenges Okay, for example, imagine this person coming to power and then they have on the agenda youth empowerment. And then once they get to power, they turn their back on and whatsoever they said in their own platform that they will give youth the chance to speak out. Now coming to power, what you promise youth. And then once you start to speak out, definitely they won't want to hear you speak out because they will feel that you are to point out some of their weaknesses or some of the things that they said they will do as politicians. Of course, they are not. So most times, what we continue to do from the YALI network, we keep saying them. We go, we organize. And we organize meeting, we invite them, and then we say, excuse me, Mr. Minister or Mr. Senator, you said this, and then you said X, Y, Z, youth empowerment. But as we notice these things that you said in your speech or in your different speeches, they are not, you are not bringing them to pass. What can you say or how can you address this? And then you will find out that they will start to maybe I'll just chitter around the question and just say something that will just, I don't know, maybe like just clear the air for the few minutes, and then they will be out of the place. So we are always speaking out. We always speaking out, telling them that whatsoever that you said, to know these things you cannot. Don't say them. Don't give us hope that for which that you, when you are elected, you won't bring those promises to reality. So we always. If you said this in your speech, be prepared to bring it to pass. Be prepared to make it happen, especially when it comes to youth empowerment or youth development. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, no, thank you. Yes, and what I'm hearing from you is the using the voice as a voice of accountability. So thank you for that. Karen, any thoughts on this issue as well about the role of sort of occupying the space for YALI African leaders, please?
Yes. There's a quote by somebody, I can't remember the person, but then the quote says that a stretched mind can never go back to its original form. So what YALI does to people is that it expands your thinking, it opens your mind up. That then once you know, you cannot unknow what you know. For instance, that you have power, that there's power in one, and then there's power in solidarity and all that. That, for instance, you have a voice and your voice counts, your voice matters. And even when you're shaking and you're scared, that voice still matters. So once you know such things, it's almost impossible to, no, it's actually impossible to unknow because you already know. And once people have learned, just like Gertrude said in her earlier remarks, once you learn something, you then want to share that. So let me give an example. At Emerging Leaders Foundation, we have programs around civic engagement. We have programs around leadership development in public service and economic empowerment. One of our programs is based in the counties where we support local youth organizations to then understand and get equipped with knowledge and information to understand what devolution is all about, how they can engage with county governments, decision-making, policy-making, and all that. So I remember one time, one governor reaching out, making a phone call and saying, yeah, you guys are getting local young people to inciting them against my government. You guys will be in trouble and all that. So these things definitely do come up. But let me tell you something. We then went back to the drawing board and said, whatever we are doing, is it right? And we said, yes. Are we doing it the right way? We said, yes. Is it bearing fruit? We said, yes. But why is there a threat? I have discovered that sometimes politicians or people in positions of authority just want to keep their people in darkness, not to know, not to be aware about the policies, about their responsibilities and duties, so that then they perpetuate themselves in power. That election time comes and all I have to do is get you a kilo of sugar, bread and whatever, and you will vote for me or give you some little coins here and there. But then we said, so how do we engage the community at the grassroots level to the extent that they are the ones demanding for social accountability in terms of resources, in terms of development at the county level. And so we said, you know what, let's do a TOT kind of a thing and get these young people to then support the fellow young people and let the noise come from the ground up and not us from the city going and, doing that on the ground. But just having said that, voice is really powerful. Voice and agency. Just having that individual agency, but also the collective agency to know that you have power, you can influence things, you can shape your destiny, you can shape the destiny of your nation, of your continent, and that there's power in that little step and little action that you take, like Professor Wangari Maathai said and lived her life, that any little step you take, any little action you take, there's an impact in that. So I would like to encourage young leaders, don't be afraid when those threats come. You can ask yourself, are you saying the right things? Are they the truth? And just be confident and go on. Because then if you don't, who will? And if it were easy, then there wouldn't be point for us to do it because it will have already been done. But it's not easy. But that's why we stick it out. That's why we then vowed to pay the price, to then be present and say, I'm living for this. This is what I'm going to do. And things must change. Because then, we have the power. We have the power. So please take the risk, go out there, build alliances and solidarity, because then sometimes there could be people within the public sector, in government, who are actually allies, who want to see change in policy, in certain things, and you can work together to make those things happen. Over to you, Sophia.
Thank you very much for your inspiration and really the encouragement to our YALI alumni who are joining us today. So we have about 5 minutes left, and I do want to give the opportunity for each of you to have maybe just a sort of a final words to our participants who've joined us here for this discussion. I do want to get in one last question, Belinda, maybe quickly. This is a question just regarding resources, sort of in recognition that this is a partnership. This session is dedicated to talking about YALI in the next 10 years. And so the question is, how can the State Department support its alumni in terms of resource mobilization to turn dreams into reality? Are there any pointers, Belinda, that you have on this particular issue for our participant who's posed this question for us?
Very much links back to kind of my response on our earlier question, is that as we have resources that we are able to mobilize for our alumni specifically on different initiatives or different efforts, I would ask that you remain engaged, right, with our public affairs officers who will be announcing those and giving instructions about those opportunities. And so as resources become available and we're able to do it, we'll definitely make that public as possible, although those resources are quite limited. But we are constantly thinking about what the initiatives and the ideas that you all have. It's something that's certainly at the forefront of our minds.
I'm sure there are many of our participants who will have appreciated that guidance. And so I want to thank everyone who has joined us on the panel to really help sort of bring light and discussion on how we can move forward in the partnership. Thank you to everyone who's joined us in the chat for your dynamic questions and the engagement. I do want to encourage everyone that as we close this session 15, we want to encourage a continued discussion along our 3 tracks of the program. So please make sure you are going to the discussion groups for input so we can capture that. But I'd like to turn the floor over for our final words, quick final words, just maybe a message of inspiration from our panelists to our YALI alumna who are joining. So start with you, Gertrude. Any words from Liberia that you can share with the group today?
Yes, so I want to say to every young African around the world, around Africa, the Africa we envision is impossible. The reality to bring it to pass, to bring that vision to pass, is all of us responsibility. So let's make it happen.
Gertrude, Karen, any final words of wisdom to impart into your fellow YALI network who've joined us today?
Yes, and my parting shot will be in line with fear, that sometimes fear holds us back from being great and doing great things in simple ways, but with so much love. because I think love is the most radical and transformative force ever in the world. And so my parting shot will be the words of Marianne Williamson, the author of A Return to Love. It's an amazing book. You should find it and read it. And this is the quote: "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's your light, not your darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, fabulous, and talented? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. You're meant to make manifest the glory of God that is within you. It's not just in some of us, it's in each and every us. And there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people don't feel insecure around you. As you let your light shine, you automatically allow other people to shine their light. And as we are liberated from our fears, our presence automatically liberates other people. So YALI fellow, YALI alumni, please go out there, speak up, be the best you can be, and liberate society, liberate Africa, because Africa is waiting on us. We are Africa, and we are Africa's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for those powerful words. Belinda, the last word of the session to you.
Yeah, this is quick. I would offer, be reflective. Think about who you are as a leader, think about what your vision is, and be reflective as often as possible. Be agile, because constantly your plans will change, but that's okay. Go back to being reflective. Be persistent, because you're going to come across hurdles, but you should continue no matter what you're doing. And finally, surround yourselves with people who will shout your name in a room full of opportunities, even if you're not there. Surround yourself with amazing people who inspire you, and anything's possible. So I think those lessons apply not only to YALI, but to life. And so I wish you all the best, and I really look forward to your ideas, and thank you so much for joining us.
Again, thank you all for just really a dynamic conversation. It has been my pleasure to moderate. I wish all of you the best. Thank you so much for your engagement. Gertrude, to you in Liberia, Karen, to you in Nairobi, thank you. All the best to you as you continue to lead in your foundations. With that, session 15 is coming to a close. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope you will continue to engage and discuss a wonderful input in the remaining sessions of day 5. Thank you very much.